Hey, beauties! Welcome to a Sacred Space podcast. I'm Katie, your host, and I am so excited to share with you how to create sacred space in order to heal and empower yourself. I want you to know that it is possible to live your dream life, to create amazing relationships, to experience joy daily, to be fully connected to yourself and passionate about life. No matter where you're at right now, it is possible to heal your trauma, your anxiety, and live a life beyond your wildest dreams. In this podcast, I will share with you the tools and resources I've used in order to create my dream life. And if it's possible for me, I know it is for you too. So let's get started. Okay, so today's episode, I am here with Kate Dwinell. She is a mindset coach, founder of Breaking Free Emotional Eating Group, the creator of the Love Yourself Selfishly movement, and I love her energy, and I'm so excited she's here. So, Kate, tell us all about you and what you got going on. Let's hear it.
Okay, well, hi, hello. I was born December 17th, 1997. Let's start there. No, I'm just kidding. I feel like I could go all the way back. Okay, so like you said, I'm a mindset coach, and I work with people who struggle with emotional eating, disordered eating, and loving themselves fully to their core. And it's because years ago, we do have to backtrack a little bit because this connects to everything I do today. But backtracking a few years ago, I struggled with an eating disorder, and I struggled with emotional eating because I grew up in an abusive household. I had no control over anything I could do. I was very unhappy with my body. I was always bullied for being fat. I was bullied for being the bigger girl, bigger boned, all the things. I was bullied, and then I was abused at home. So once I hit my teen years and I was able to drive, that's when I tried to take control of my life, but in an unhealthy way. There was too many vowels in 3 seconds of that, but it was in an unhealthy way because I turned to over controlling. So I restricted my diet, ate under 1,000 calories a day. I was at the gym at least 3 times a day, and that's when I started to develop my eating disorder. At the time, I would binge, I would restrict, and then I would purge, and I was so unhappy. I was so uncomfortable with my skin. I did all the diets out there. I ended up losing a lot of weight. I lost all the weight that I ever had on me, but I was still unhappy with my body. I still viewed myself as fat. I think I struggled with body dysmorphia at the time. I was never actually diagnosed with it, but I feel like I was, because I felt like I was so much bigger than I actually was. Looking back, I was really, really, really tiny, but at the time I thought I was 5,000 pounds. Mm-hmm. But I struggled with body image. I struggled with the connection with myself. So I turned to food to numb my emotions, to numb everything that was going on in my life. I tried to do all the fad diets, any fad diet out there, if you name it, I've tried it. No doubt in my mind. Even the egg diet, the military diet, your girl did it. But nothing worked. And I tried all the fat burners, the pills, the wraps, the shakes, all the meal plans, exercise plans, nothing worked. I was so unhappy with my body, and I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I felt. So one day I actually hit rock bottom. I was at the gym, and I was constantly weighing myself. So after I was finished working out, I stepped on the scale, and I gained 0.5 of a pound. Only 0.5 of a pound, which is normal. You're consuming water, you're working out your muscles, it's a normal thing. But of course, at the time, it was all hell broke loose for me. I was on the floor crying in the gym, was freaking out. And at that point I was there's something wrong with me. Nothing is working right now, and I'm really upset over a 0.5 of a pound gain. I was there's something wrong. And so that's when I started to really look inside internally, because I was okay, logically, external sources are not helping me. These workouts aren't helping me. These meal plans aren't helping me. Me going to the gym isn't helping me. Nothing's working outside. So there's something internally I need to do. So I started to work on my mindset. And once I started to see a little shift with my mindset and see the happiness change, I became obsessed with everything mindset, with everything personal growth and everything like that, which I know people are oh, okay. But no, for real. Yeah, I became so obsessed. I deep dived into myself. I healed my childhood wounds, which is so like humongously huge. I healed my mindset through a lot of steps. Of course, it wasn't an overnight thing, but it took me a long time. But I was able to heal myself internally, and that's when my external world started to shift, because your external world's a direct reflection of your internal world. So yeah, I healed my emotional eating, and I healed my eating disorder through working on myself internally. And then a few years ago, I became a housewife for my husband, and I loved it, and I loved taking care of him and everything. But I missed helping people, because I've always loved helping people. And I had this passion inside me, and I was like, I need to change somebody's life, but I don't know how. So I got into like the network marketing world. Didn't end up liking it. I was really good with it, but it pushed me into the entrepreneurship world, which I loved. But then I ended up stepping into my own coaching, which is where I am today, where I help coach emotional eaters to find food freedom and break through their body struggles. And I've been doing it for about a year, and it's given me my whole entire life purpose and passion in such a beautiful way. And it makes my heart so freaking happy. So long story long, hi, hello, that's me.
No, I love your story so much, and I can relate to so much of it, because I had very similar things happen to me. I was on the other side of like where I was just like anorexic, like for a whole year. I think it was my freshman year. I just like didn't eat. And then my parents were like, something's wrong with you. And they took me to a counselor and stuff, and like all these things happened. But I've always struggled with my body image, and like how, and I think most women do. I think that that's like a big deal, but and it doesn't matter what size I've been, because I've been all sizes, like, from like a size 2 to a size 11, you know what I mean? Like I've been anywhere in between that. And no matter what, like I have had these times where no matter what size I was, I felt like disgusting. You know what I mean? So
of course, yeah.
So I love what you're doing, and I think it's like so important. It's so needed, and it's like beautiful. I love it. So why don't you tell us about like what the deep reason is, like as to why we end up emotionally eating, like that behind the scenes reason.
There's so many reasons. Okay, so it all depends on your situation itself, but I always tell people, we only scratch the surface level of our minds as a society. We don't like to dig deeper. We don't like to feel, and that's actually when we start to heal, is when we start to feel. So there's a lot of deep-rooted issues that could be why you binge eat or why you emotionally eat. And this could be childhood wounds. Like I was saying, like I was abused. I was looking for control, and the only control I had in my life was food. And I didn't want to deal with those feelings. Like I said, nobody wants to feel their feelings. So what we do is numb, suppress, and avoid. And those are 3 huge reasons of why we emotionally eat. We either want to numb, we either want to suppress, or we want to either avoid. And those can be connected to like childhood wounds, or you could have had a situation in your younger adult life or adult life that caused a traumatic experience that you don't want to feel. Or it could be that you just hate your body, which you don't really hate your body if you usually hate, like I always say, you hate the fat on your body, you don't hate your body. So you either hate your body, so what you want to do is just numb, suppress, and avoid. I feel like that's just the biggest thing it comes down to, is numbing, suppressing, and avoiding. But there's a deeper rooted issue, which could be traumatic. So it's the traumatic experience that happened in your life, which could be childhood. Sometimes it could be like a sexual traumatic experience. Sometimes it can be like physical, mental, emotional. It all breaks down into what is your story and what happened to you, but there is a deeper rooted issue. I always tell people your emotional eating has nothing to do with food. I don't teach food and nutrition. I rarely ever touch on food and nutrition. There's a deeper rooted issue below the surface level of thinking that's causing you to emotionally eat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. And like, I feel like we're on like the same wavelength here with that, because I deal a lot with like addiction, and I feel like emotional eating, like it ends up being addiction, because addiction is the same thing. You're numbing, you're suppressing, or you're avoiding. So like, in how I dealt with like my issues and my emotional issues and my childhood traumas when I was younger is I used drugs. You know what I mean? And I partied and I did all these things, and it was because of the exact same thing. It was numbing, suppressing, and avoiding, like that exact same thing. So I feel like what it ends up coming down to is this disconnection. Somehow we have a separation inside from ourselves, because we don't want to feel those feelings. And so we create this separation, this disconnection. And then through that disconnection, we try to take control because we feel separated, we feel out of control, and then we use these various like ways of doing that. So I totally love that. I think that's like on point. Everything you said, 100.
Yeah. There's something I always tell people. I love how you touched on disconnection because that is so true. Like we're so disconnected from our bodies. I always tell people if you're physically connected emotionally, like fully to your body, it's impossible for you to binge and emotionally eat.
Yeah.
And people usually get triggered by that. They're like, no, I'm connected. And I'm like, no. Like we have to be aware that we're not connected first. But like if you're fully connected, like I always tell people the easiest way, this is a side note, if you want to know how to get connected to your body, I always use the breath. Connection, deep breath. You can connect right out of your head and into your heart. But that's a total side note. But if you're fully connected into yourself, it's totally impossible to binge eat and emotionally eat. I feel you on the same way. Like I use drugs and I use partying like to numb and suppress and avoid also with my emotional eating. So yes, I feel you 100%.
Yeah, so many of us do, especially if we've been through trauma, because those emotions, like those emotions of grief and pain and heartbreak and all that stuff, they are highly intense. And so it's really hard to feel those emotions. Like it's really hard. And it feels that way like initially. Like once you actually decide, you make the decision to go in and feel those emotions and really get in touch with them, it's so much easier and less scarier than you ever thought it was going to be. But initially, and especially when we're younger and we don't have the capacity or the understanding of what our emotions are, it is so scary and it feels so painful that like all we want to do is avoid it. And I love how you brought up breath work because I think that is like super important. That's like a huge tool that you can like, that we can teach everybody today. Like breath work is huge. Like if you do one thing where it would be that, like breathe in and breathe out, like, and really focus on your breath because that is like a humongous connection tool. Like it's a beautiful thing and it really can change everything just from doing that a few minutes a day.
I know. It's so funny, too, how you're just talking about that because the three things as humans that are like necessities, we mess up. So we mess up eating, connection, and usually like food. Like the things that we need to survive and mess up as a society. Which it's the truth.
I totally agree, like 100%. So, so let's talk about that. Like, a big part of your business is like creating that relationship with yourself and having like self-love. So like to you, what does that look like? Like what is a relationship with yourself like look like for you? And what do you teach your clients, I guess?
Okay. Well, the first thing I always teach is awareness, because if you're not aware, you can't step into a place of love and acceptance and to growth. So you first have to be aware of, okay, I hate my body. And people are like, well, why do you teach people to hate your body? I'm like, no, you have to be aware that you hate your body.
Yeah.
You have to hate your body first to step into a place of acceptance and love. So I first teach awareness, and then we move into a place of acceptance. And at this acceptance point, I always tell people, you're not going to gain like 600 and buy like 2 million cats. That's not how this works. You accept where you are in this life. Like, okay, like I my body, I love my body where it's at, but it's also more than okay to want to live on this earth with a lighter frame. That's what I always tell people. If you come from a place of, then it's a beautiful thing and you'll do things that you want to move your body in the most healthy way. But if you come from a place of, oh my God, I hate my body. Okay, let me go lose 50,000 pounds. Oh, I hate my body. I need to cut this out. Oh, I hate my body. So it goes from a place of awareness to accepting. And then once you have acceptance, you can move into a place of fully loving and embracing your body where it is now. Like I always tell people, like, I love my body. My body's been through and back, and I have so much compassion for my younger self who treated it like shit. Sorry, hopefully you can curse on here. But okay. But so I have compassion for my younger self who treated it so freaking badly. But now I have the acceptance and I love for my body where I can treat it with the most up respect, and I can give it the healthy nutrition that it needs, and I can give it the healthy movement it needs without actually doing anything nutritional wise or like exercise wise. Like I don't teach. It's all about the mindset. Because when you love your body fully to your core, then you want to do things that make it like healthy and treat it well. So it all goes, I think but going back to the question, oh my gosh, I'm a tangent queen. Going back to awareness, acceptance, and then you do it from a space of love.
Gotcha.
It's a long process. It's not something that you do overnight. It's like you have to put in work and effort into it, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it totally does make sense because, I mean, like any relationship, all relationships are work. And I think that we forget that, like, we have to have a relationship with ourselves first, really, to have a relationship with other people. And that is going to require work. That is going to require, like you said, like having that awareness and constantly being like aware of where we're at and then accepting where we're at. And then, you know, from, like you said, from a place of love, like working towards what we essentially want. But you have to know what you want and you have to do the work around that. And it, you know, all relationships require work, bottom line.
Exactly. I'm on the same exact page.
So, like, what are some tools that you use for confidence, or like, what is your view on what confidence is, or like, just what can you tell me about like your work around that mindset and like what you do there?
Okay, so well, confidence to me is being so loving and happy in your body, and you can tell like, oh, like I'm so confident, I'm so happy just from the person. Like you have this attractive energy, and I'm not saying like a sexual or physical attractive energy, but like this positive, high vibe, beautiful energy that brings people in. And the way that I try to keep my confidence, or like because you know everybody's not perfect. The way I try to keep my confidence is just connecting back into my body and knowing my worth. And my worth to my core is that I'm a beautiful human being. I was put on this earth for a reason. And God, source, whoever you believe in, made me exactly the way I'm supposed to be right now in this perfect moment. And it's also trust and surrendering and knowing that I'm in where I'm supposed to be in this perfect time and all divine timing. So, and then connecting back into myself and my truth. Okay. I love myself. I love my body. And I fully believe that I am beautiful in this exact moment, which I know is probably far-fetched for somebody right now who's like, I hate myself and I hate my body, which I get you, girl. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. But something that helped me was when I was struggling with my confidence is that, side note, like your brain is so freaking smart. Your brain is always looking for evidence for the stories that you're telling it. So if you're saying like, oh, I hate my body and I'm so ugly and I'm so worthless, your brain's going to be searching for evidence to prove that story to be true. So my biggest tip is just trying to tell yourself a different story, because when you start telling yourself a different story, like, oh yeah, I'm worthy. Say, let's start small. I'm worthy of that free coffee. Oh yeah, I'm so worthy of that. Your brain's going to start picking out data to prove that you are worthy of things. So that's when your confidence starts arising. That's when your worthiness starts arising. So start telling yourself a different story. Stop negatively speaking to yourself, because your body picks on everything that you're saying to it. So instead of picking out the things that you hate, start picking out things that you love, or say, I am in the process of loving my body. And I think that's more beautiful than saying, I hate my body. No, I'm in the process of loving my body. I'm in the process of feeling confident. I'm in the process of owning the skin that I'm in. So yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's amazing. I love that. And I love that you touched on like having that sense of worthiness and like how God created you like exactly to be who you are. So like tell me about that, like when it comes to because for me, like relationship to the self is like having that is the number one important factor, is having that connection to source, to your creator. So like for you, like how much do you teach that, and like in what capacity? Like how it
go ahead. Well, so I teach it on whatever my client or person believes in, because I believe in God and the universe. I feel like God controls like the universe and makes the universe spin and that whole shebang. I mean, if you don't believe that, cool. Like we both have different opinions. Totally fine. I'm here for it. But I always teach on, I'm sorry if you can hear the train. I always teach on how usually God or source or whatever they believe in. Usually I've only had God and source. I haven't had a different type of creation yet, but usually when I touch on God, I always touch on, okay, well, God made you imperfectly. God made you in perfect hands. You have to trust and surrender and know that God has a plan for you in this exact moment. And that's a huge thing also too with source. I think they both go hand in hand. I think it's just interchangeable. You can insert XYZ here and what you believe in, but it's trust and surrender has been a huge game changer for not only me, but my clients, and just knowing and fully like, it's like a trust fall almost. Trusting and knowing that the source or God's going to catch you even if you fall. And I know that's like a scary thing, especially if like you're so like want the control in your life. Trusting and surrendering is something that's really hard to do, but it's something I definitely teach, because once you hit the trust and surrender with God and source, then your whole life changes. Because what we tend to do is focus on the future problems, our future issues, and we don't ever focus like being connected into the present. But when we're connected to the present, we're truly living what God or source wants us to be doing. So we're just focusing on the future and focusing on the outcomes we're going to get, but that's not our I don't know the word. That's not our problem. That's not our that's not our problem.
Like what our place is in like the whole grand scheme of things. Because again, it comes down to like a control issue.
Yeah.
Like, we have to know what we want, obviously, in order to get it. But I think I'm a firm believer, only because this has shown up in my life like over and over and over, that there are just some things that are out of your control. Like God has a plan, and like you can choose to surrender to that, or you can fight it the whole way through, but like one way or another it's happening. You know what I'm saying? So like,
exactly. Yes.
It's your choice if you fight it or if you surrender and let it happen. But and I really like in what I teach, like with love and relationships and stuff, like I know that that's true. Like when you have someone like a soulmate or someone who's out there for you, like that is not something you can control. Like you cannot make that happen. It will happen. You can prepare yourself for it. And that's really what I teach, is like opening those doors and preparing yourself for it so you can hold space for when it comes. But you cannot make that happen. Like you can't make that. Like that's out of your control. Like that, it also involves another person too. You know what I'm saying? And that's a divine plan that you have no control over. You know, so that's like surrender is huge in that. Like huge. And I think it goes like with everything else, and like what you're teaching and with your business and with everything, like you have to be willing to surrender. That's beautiful.
And it's crazy too, because when you just trust and surrender, like you let go of the outcome and everything is happening for you, no matter, even if you let go of the outcome, but everything is happening for you. But I know some people like to have resistance around it, because they're like, well, what about the, all the terrible things that happen in your life? And I'm like, well, you're supposed to learn and grow from those things. Yeah, it sucks. Like, yeah, I didn't want to go through my eating disorder for many years, but look where it put me now. Look what I've learned now. You're supposed to go through obstacles in your life for you to learn and grow. And that's the thing that we kind of struggle with as a society, is we don't want it to be hard. We don't want it to be icky and sticky. And that's why I always say we need to feel to heal, because usually we avoid, numb, suppress. But when we feel to heal, when we go through the hard stuff, when we go through the icky, that's when we grow, evolve, and expand to the next level version of us. Without that, we're going to stay stagnant for the rest of our lives. And who wants to be the same old stagnant? Like, that's boring.
Yeah. And it's very painful. Like you think it's painful to grow, but like staying stagnant and staying in the same place is like 10 times more painful than pushing yourself into outside of your comfort zone.
You're just prolonging your suffering at that point.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah.
100. Okay. And then the other thing too, I think we briefly touched on this, but if you want to go a little bit deeper, like in talking about like your relationship with food. So like, is it more about like intuitive eating, or like having that connection, or like how does that work, like that relationship with food?
Well, I intuitively eat. That's something that has worked well for me for now, I think years now. I've been intuitive eating, because anytime I went through like macros, counting calories, following meal plans, it all seemed super restrictive to me. And that's not something I'm a fan of. If it's restrictive and it makes me feel like, that clenched feeling in your chest, then it's not for me. It's not the way I'm supposed to do. But the thing I always tell people with intuitive eating intuitive eating is not something I recommend for people who just got out of an eating disorder or just got out of like disordered eating, because then you can still fall into the like binge restrict cycle. Because I still want you to learn about like, okay, this is how much I should be eating. This is how much, like, this is good for me. This is good for me. I always tell people to go on like, I don't want to say like a macro plan, but to learn about like your macros, learn about how beneficial like this food is for you, learn about how this food is beneficial to you. But then once you learn what like proper portions are, what fuels your body, and you have time to actually connect back into your body and listen to what it's telling you, because when you're done with like, not when you're done, when you heal from emotional eating or disordered eating, you're coming into this like whole new space of like, oh, like I need to reconnect with my body because I've been so disconnected for so long. I don't even know the difference between a physical hunger cue and an emotional hunger cue. Mm-hmm. So as you're coming back into reconnecting with your body, I always tell people to learn about what foods would be good for you, because I don't think there's one set plan that's like anybody can fit into. That's why I teach like intuitive eating. But I first want you to learn, okay, like carbs aren't scary, fats aren't scary. You just need to have the proper portions for each like of them, and you can actually tell your body gives you signals of what it needs. You just need to actually learn, okay, this feels good with my body at this time, this feels with this at this time. And then once you know what feels good and what feels right, you can step into that place of intuitive eating where you can fully listen to your body and be like, oh, like I need some energy, maybe let me grab like a fruit, or let me grab like a carb, or like whatever feels good. You'll have that intuitive nudge to bring you into it, that type of eating. Does that make sense? Was that a total tangent?
That makes 100% sense. Because like you get cravings, and like even no matter how like disconnected you are from your body, I think like we all understand like that feeling of like just knowing, like that craving, like that knowing like this is what my body wants. You know what I mean? And like sometimes that's like a plate of fruit, and sometimes it's like a piece of pie. But like at the end of the day, your body's gonna tell you, and it's like sometimes for me it'll like give me a picture, like a picture of the food, like this is what I want, like find it now. You know what I mean?
I love that.
So I'm still working on the intuitive eating thing, because I think I still struggle with food and all of that stuff, and like figuring it out, because I have a lot of food guilt, and I don't know why like necessarily or where that comes from, but I definitely have a lot of food guilt. And I did the whole restriction thing like one time when this was years ago. I was like, I think I was 21. I went on the Beyonce diet. It was like
oh gosh,
popular at the time. This was like 14 years ago. Okay, so like it was cayenne and lemon and cayenne lemon.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But you don't eat. You don't eat for 3 days. And like, I didn't know at the time that I knew, but I wasn't like aware of what that meant, that I was severely hypoglycemic. So I go on this Beyonce diet, and by the end of like the second day, I was like fainting, and my boyfriend was like, you have to eat, get off this, like what is wrong with you, you know? And I realized that at that moment, I realized like how abusive I was being to my body. I was like, this is pure abuse. Like, you know, this might be some fad and everybody at work was doing it, whatever, but like this feels like pure abuse. You know what I mean? And so I never dieted again after that, like in an intense way. I still messed with stuff. I went gluten-free and I did all these different things. But every single time I came back to that conclusion, like restricting myself and taking things out of my diet because I think somehow it's going to make me better or make me feel better about my body, ends up making me gain more weight, ends up making me feel worse about myself, and it feels like abuse. You know what I mean? So, but because of all those things, and this has really just been coming up for me lately, so this conversation is like, it's like on point for me today, because lately, the whole relationship with food thing has really been coming up for me, where I'm having this awareness that I have food guilt. Like no matter what my body's craving, and I go and I eat it, and then I like feel that pinch of like guilt, like you shouldn't eat that, no matter what it is, like literally. So yeah, like I totally understand that, and I understand that like that it comes, like I love how you talk about it being a relationship with food, because it is like a relationship. It's a relationship with your body, and it's a relation, and hearing your nudges, like really listening to those, and then having like reminding yourself when you feel those feelings of guilt or shame around what you're eating or what your body's craving, like that you're honoring your body, you're listening to your body, and this is a good thing. You know what I mean? So yeah.
And if you're feeling like food guilt, I always tell people, dig a little deeper. See where that first started coming up. Because like I used to have food guilt all the time. Anything I would eat, like you were saying, I would feel guilty. And it's because like, okay, it was like a learned behavior from my mother. Like I loved my mother with all my freaking heart, but it's a learned behavior. A lot of my problems stem from my mother. Sorry, Mom, if you ever listen to this, it's true. A lot of them stem from her because she dieted, like I swear, ever since the day I was born. Like I always heard about diets. I always heard about food. I always heard about, oh, don't eat this, I'll make you fat. Oh, don't do this, I'll make you fat. Oh, you need to eat healthy. You need to eat salads. You need to do this. So anytime I ate anything that wasn't green, even like even anything, I would feel like this spin of guilt, and I'd be like, well, why the hell do I feel this? I still get it sometimes. Like I always tell people, I'm not perfect. I take myself through my coaching a million times all the time. I had to do it last night. Like, it's the thing is like this is a process of learning. It's a process of growing. Like you said, it's in a relationship. You have to continue to work on it. If you throw it on the street, your boyfriend's gonna leave you. Like, sorry. Like, of course, it's constant work, it's constant effort, but the more you do it, I don't want to say the easier it gets, but the more you're able to take yourself through it and complete a process. Like I always teach my clients like a few different tools to use. Like I have tools now that I didn't have back then. Back then I would spiral down if I had a piece of a cookie, like a little nibble on a cookie. Now I'm like #balance, but not really, like what is balance, but you know what I mean. But it's like I can have a cookie now and I don't spiral down and eat the whole freaking box, or I don't spiral down and restrict the next day. I don't binge and I purge. I have the tools now to help me get through it, and I can be curious and be like, that's the thing I always tell people, get curious. I always tell like people, dig deeper, get curious. Why do you feel that way? Where did that come from? I always like being the little kid with my clients. Why? And they're like, Kate. And I'm like, why? And like, dig deeper. And then you'll find, as annoying as I sound, it's the truth. Just keep digging. Keep digging. Pull the layers off the onion. You're going to find the root cause one day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, and I definitely think that, most of the time, at least for me and what I found with like people that I work with and talk to and stuff, is that most everything that we deal with or that comes up for us, you can trace it back to childhood, like every single time.
Yeah.
I'll start at a certain point, like this happened to me, and then I do like what you do, like I do it with myself too. I'm like, why? How did that serve me? What was happening there? Where did that come from? And then I can trace the pattern back. Like, did that happen anywhere else in my life? Let me look, and I just keep going back, and it'll always go back to childhood every single time.
Every single time. And the thing is too, like the things that we did when we were a childhood benefited, oh my gosh, word stay, benefited us back then, because we didn't have the capacity to deal with our emotions or to deal with situations that happened to us. But now in our adulthood life, like we're able to feel our emotions, we're able to deal with it, we're able to go through and process things. But as a child, like that's what we learn. So we keep it through our adulthood life, but it's just letting go of those behaviors and just releasing them and being like, hey, I love you. You served a purpose at one time, but I'm safe now. Like, thank you. And just releasing those.
Yes, that is so powerful. I love you, and I love everything you're doing.
You.
I think it's so amazing and awesome. Oh, and I listen to your podcast, like the one you do with your bestie. You guys are so much fun. It's so good.
Gosh, thank you. I love just podcasting with her, and just podcasting in general is just so fun for me. Like, it's not work. It's just something where we can just be ourselves, and I love how me and her can do it. It's just a very like chill. We should have you on. That'd be so fun.
Yeah, and you put on the link, so I need to apply to come on there for sure, because like I listened to it, I was like, oh, these girls are like so awesome. You guys have such a good like vibrational thing that you two create together. It's just like so much fun, and there's all this giggling, and I was just like cracking up. But it's also like really beneficial. Like there's so many amazing messages that you have on that, so it's like so much fun, but at the same time you're gonna like learn so much. You know what I mean? So it's like
and
perfect, thing is happening there. A great podcast, dude. It's
Thank
awesome.
you. And that's the thing is we try to tell people, like, we try to keep it fun and bubbly because the conversations we have aren't usually fun to talk to, but it creates that more of the laughable, positive space for you to open up and just be real and honest. So I think it's a lot of fun, but yeah, like you said, like when we get serious, it's like serious, but it's still good. Okay, thank you. Yeah. That was so nice. I love our podcast.
Yeah, I love it too. It's fabulous. Okay, so tell my audience like where they can find you, the name of your podcast, all the things. Like let's hear it out.
Okay, deal. It's pretty easy. Well, most of my stuff is Kate Dwinell. It's KateDwinell. That is my Facebook and Instagram. Then I have my Facebook free community. It's called Breaking Through Emotional Eating. And then I host the Body Confident Babes podcast. So those are the things you can find me hanging out. I hang out on Instagram stories a lot. I do a bunch of lives on Facebook, and we have 2 podcasts that drop each week. So I'm kind of hanging out there like all the time. You can come see my face.
Yay! That's awesome. Oh yeah, I'm so glad we did this. This is so much fun. I love it.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome.
For free resources, ebooks, and other super awesome tools, go to my website, sacredspacewithkatie.com. I also want to remind you to subscribe so you always get the latest episode, and to leave a review so other people can find this podcast too. I super appreciate you tuning in today, and I will catch you in the next episode. Have a beautiful day.